Alright, good morning, y'all. It is now Mercury Day. Woo! Well, I like it. It's supposed to rain though, but it's too bad. Fucking cold inside. And by that I mean at least plus 16 or 18. And I'd be alright, but it's like only plus 10 and it's raining. Sketchy and stuff here. Anyways, fucking hate this. Anyways, I got a comment yesterday that I can't comment on. So I was asked to, I'm going around here. Yeah, the real fire trucks are fucking there and shit. Yeah, so I was recording the ending of my fucking show yesterday, the conclusion, and a comment came up, and at first glance of the comment, I couldn't really tell what the fuck was going on. It looked like like something was said that I didn't understand. Anyways, it turned out it wasn't true. He sent me 2 comments and deleted them both. And it was about my entity video and the fact that entities initially they were not upset. They were wondering how I could say that we create all the entities. Entities can affect who the spirit entity well. The person said something to the effect that they dropped a name saying that I need to explain something like this, and children being affected and whatnot. And there's part 2 of the comments saying that they were against me, to not take it personal, or to saying if an attack, that they consider me as a friend, and that they themselves are a child, like my children. So, and something about as well. Saying that he said something that people to tell, and that he and I are right, and there's nothing wrong. So, I said I was going to comment on it, and I left a message saying to this person that I won't comment on it. Thank you for your comment and your viewing my videos. Thank you for your comment and watching the videos. And the only thing I will say is, regardless, well, I mentioned by regardless if you think they're man-made entities or not man-made entities, or entities like wherever in the realm of the planet. Regardless of that, the one thing I'd like to understand is that these things, these entities, cannot affect you unless you let them affect you. Let them affect you, then they will affect you. They can affect you. Once you allow them in, they can attach themselves to you, they can feed off of you by way of you, giving their free love. And I mean, it's the same thing for a love entity. Just love someone you like. Maybe there's some deceitful love entities out there that force people to fucking be in love when they shouldn't be, and they're getting fucked over just so they can feed off their love. I don't know. But the point is, like a love entity, these entities are going to make you feel things, say things that allow them to get energy from you, whether that's love or fear. More often than not, it's going to be fear, but you know what I mean? So, if you allow these fucking things in, then they can affect you. If you don't allow these things in, then they cannot affect you. Really comes down to that. You are at your very base, at the very bottom of your nature, at your very essence, at your very lowest level, whatever you want to call it. Whether you know it or not, you are protected from these things. The problem is, if you watch TV shows where things happen, people are affected, whether they want to or not, things like the Bible, and their spiritual spiritualities and say the devil can possess you, you don't believe in God strong enough, which, you know, there's some kind of truth to that, but it's not. See, as a kid, one of the things that made me keep believing in God was the fear of devil possession. Okay? I was told as a child that if you don't believe in God, you are more likely to get possessed by the devil. The devil can come and possess you. Those are the exact words from my mother, teachers, and the priest. This is nothing against my mother. She was just telling me what. Yeah, new subscriber. Nice. Lilith Palulin. I like the name. Thank you for subscribing, Lilith. Lilith Palulin. I really like Lilith. That's kind of a beautiful name, by the way. So thank you. It's fucking sick. I was at 79 yesterday, went down to 78. Back at 79, baby. Woo! Can't nobody take my pride. Can't nobody hold the ceremonial witch down. Oh no, I've got to keep on growing in subscriber count. That didn't rhyme or make sense, you know, but, you know. Anyways, thank you. Where the fuck was I going with that? I don't even know what was the last thing I said now. I'm all fucking crazy today. So anyways, bring it back, bring it back, sometimes. Bring it back. Oh yeah, so as a child, there was nothing against my mother, she was just telling me what she was told, what was drilled into her head as a child. But as a child, my fear of being possessed by the devil scared me enough to believe in the God. And that wasn't the only reason I believed in God. I'm not saying that. I was very adamant and a very good advocator and catalyst for Christianity and my God and Jesus and a whole bunch of shit. I was really into it. Fucking, you know, I still like learning about it, to be completely honest. I don't believe it anymore, but I still like learning about it. But, and once again, what happens if you have an entity attacking you? What happens if there's a law form attacking you? What happens if you think you're cursed? What happens if you have a run of bad luck? What do you need to do? Well, you need to grab a black fucking candle or any color candle that you think is going to work. You need to do a spell, a ritual, something to show your mind that you are taking care of what's going on. You're taking care of your business. You're handling it. And you are going to get rid of this fucking curse. And it will be so. It will be gone. You will get rid of it. So, symbolic gesture, right? So, to keep devil possession from happening, as long as you have a strong belief in God, you can keep the devil away. You don't have a strong belief in God, the devil can come. This is something that has been programmed into you, so it's more likely to happen than it is actually real. Well, there's some entity called the devil that's going to come and take over your body. Now, that being said, is there a thought form out there called the devil, Satan, Lucifer, that has the potential to take over a human being's body, especially if they have the programming since a child that if they don't believe in God, they can be inhabited by this being? Of course there is. There's too many people out there that believe it for it not to be a thought form. It's just like all the fucking mythos and the religions I talk about. These things all exist. Not in the way the Bible describes them, but because of the Bible being a book out there, it's been around for God only knows how long. All these characters, all these stories, all these things exist because they exist in our minds, and our minds is like its own little galaxy by itself, but it is below us, it's not above us. So this is just more proof of why I say these entities can't attack you unless you allow them. If you allow them power, if you think they have more power than you, then you are allowing that to happen. And if you listen to me, you do your own research. You don't believe me. You don't have to believe me. I don't want you to believe me. Go there and do your own fucking research. Go see what all the fucking greats have said over time. Go see what different philosophers and the mythos teach. And, you know, like even in the movies, for example, from the Remember the Titans movies, where if people aren't praying for Zeus and the rest of the Olympians, this is why Hades has the idea to scare them into loving them. They It's like we can use their fear just like we can use their love. Right? It's what Monsters Inc. ends up doing, right? They go around scaring the fucking people for their energy. And their energy crisis. This is how they fuel their cities, right? Fear. They find out that love is better. Zeus already knows love is better than fear. But he's like, well, if you're not going to love us, then let's make them fear us. And with their fear, we can survive. Because if the humans aren't thinking about us, then that's our death. If the humans are either fearing us or loving us, it doesn't matter, as long as they're thinking about us. It's like the life of a celebrity. No news is bad news, but bad news and good news is what they want. They don't care if it's bad news or good news. As long as people are talking about them, they have a career. If no one's talking about them, that's the death of a celebrity. Do you not see the correlation with all these fucking things? Okay? So, these gods need our attention. The humans outlived the god, the Olympians. The Olympians all ended up dying eventually because the humans no longer prayed for them, no longer needed them, no longer loved them. They realized their power. They realized that they were the ones fueling these gods, these deities. We used these gods and these deities for so long to answer and personify and explain everything that we've ever needed to explain before our brains got to a certain level of development. We use these gods as a way to explain different stories and different ways things came about. But then we got to a certain point where it's like, okay, it doesn't really make sense anymore to make a god about everything. Like, how did this happen? This happened. Well, the god of this made it. The god of this made it. Well, it doesn't really make sense to do that anymore because now we're a little bit smarter. Whatever the case is, who the fuck knows? I don't know. I'm just saying. The point of my story right now is just like the gods, just like the demons, just like I'm on a highway that's watched by the airs for speeders. I see something fucking pretty low. Yeah, I can look up the clocks. Fucking there. I see something pretty low there though. It's looking around. So. But anyways, it's an 80, so I'll go 100. I don't remember which strong. But anyway, so the point of all this is simply to state that the gods, the demons, the devils, the everything is in our mind. And it's real. They're real. They are thought forms. And these thought forms don't just live in our minds. They can come out of our minds and influence us to do things. In fact, all our thoughts that pertain to these certain subjects might come from these fucking deities, these beings. Who the fuck knows? Maybe they're the ones that originate thoughts. This is why they're thought forms. This is why they can be created. Maybe it was their idea for us to create them. I don't know. But the fact that we created them tells me that we have more power than them. We don't create these entities, these mythos, these deities, and then the deities are more powerful than us. That's not how this works. If we create something, then we're more powerful than them. Now, over time, just like your children, right? Eventually your children become more powerful than you because of their age. But as long as you transform yourself to become wise in your old age and not just be useless and just fucking I'll throw there for a second there. Not just be useless and like, you know, you wasted your whole life and you didn't get any knowledge and you didn't get any fucking wisdom and, you know, so that you have something to trade with when you're older. It's like, that's my point. When I'm old and I can't fucking move around, it's gonna happen. And I'm gonna be a good looking fucking old man. I'm gonna be a great, physically strong old man up until the point where, you know, that's just not possible. But like, I'm gonna break the fucking records for the best looking, best agile, strongest fucking old fucking geezer there is, alright? Simple as that. That being said, there's gonna come to a point where I'm not gonna be able to beat Saturn anymore. Saturn is gonna help me up and help me out as long as he can until it's like, okay, boy, we cheated this shit enough. Now it's time to, you know, pay back Mother Earth, give her back your body, let someone else inhabit it. You know, from there you can go and you move up the hierarchy. Anyways, but the point is whenever my kids are gonna need me, I'm not gonna let something like the fact that I'm old and weak and can't do much stop me from being of value and of use. My fucking brain, my knowledge is gonna be off the fucking charts. Alright? I might even be able to levitate my old ass body around if I have to. Just fucking float around. Fuck a wheelchair. Fucking this, fucking that. I'm just gonna fucking float around, motherfucker. Levitate. and then fucking use telekinesis to fucking pull my pants down and shit and wipe my ass so I don't need the pants, and you know, fucking be able to dye my own fucking hair without using my hands. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have it locked down. Alright? Keep watching my channel until then. If YouTube's still around when I'm a geezer, I'll teach everybody my techniques and show everybody. But anyways, point is, you gotta, well, for that small segue or whatever you want to call it that you just did, the point of that is, you know, when you get older, don't waste your life away. You know what I mean? If you are going to be a burden on your family, please have something to offer so that you want to be around you. You're just a burden, you're just condescending and judgmental and not happy because, you know, you've traded in your youth for nothing good in your old age, or if you actually traded in your youth and you have all this knowledge and wisdom and you are of use and value, and your kids don't mind having you around because, well, you babysit their kids and you can teach their kids some shit, and, you know, you have solutions to sometimes their problems, and, you know, you might not be able to physically fix their fucking plumbing or their drywall, but you know how to do most of that shit. You've done roofing and troughing and siding and concrete work and painting and drywall and every fucking thing under the sun, every tree under the sun, so you have the knowledge of all these things. So all you have to do is explain, you know, then people are going to want to have you around. But anyways, this is way besides the point. But the point, a simple point I was trying to illustrate there, because I'm worried. I don't like the fact that there's so much info out there that state that we have these entities in these other realms, whether it be alien entities or just straight up fear of intervening beings in other realms that can somehow get us to fucking disappear or something like that. And it's no one's fucking fault. It's not the people watching this stuff who end up believing this stuff. It's not their fault, especially if they're younger, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? The more, you know, the younger you are, the more powerful you are. In the same sense, the more gullible you can be. So don't get that twisted. I'm not saying you're just fucking useless or anything like that. You haven't been around as long, so you don't know. Like me versus Thunder Wizard, I'm going to be more gullible than Thunder Wizard because I haven't been around as long as him. Whereas he's been duped and taken advantage of more times than I have already. So he can smell a fucking conspiracy or a fake conspiracy or, you know, a fake fucking trap con artist faster than I might be able to. And the same thing goes for me versus a child who's 15 or 16 or 14 or 12. They haven't been around as long, so there's a chance they might be able to tell this to be fun, but in the same sense they might not either. So I don't know where the hell I was going with that, but I had a point to that. But anyways, so this is why we help each other. But nonetheless, the younger you are, the more powerful you are. And you can say, well, no, the older you are, the more wise you get, the more knowledge you get. Absolutely. But there's something to be said, especially about a kid in their teen years going through puberty. They have a whole lot of emotions there that are just like raw energy. Like I've seen some weird things happen around my oldest and my second oldest. I've seen some weird things on the internet, but that could have been fake. Like who the fuck knows? But then I've seen weird things happen around my kids that are very similar. Things moving, things breaking, lights popping whenever they get frustrated. You know, like straight up like. So much emotion that it's busting at the seams. You know what I mean? So, yeah, there's something there too. But anyways, that was just to illustrate the point that, you know, if you're a young enough person getting in the occult, well, that's awesome. But, you know, getting control of your emotions is going to be hard if you're going through puberty. No doubt about it. But if you are, you can probably use some pretty amazing things if you can cultivate some discipline at a young age. I'm not telling you you need to. I think it's better if you just live your life and enjoy it and all that. But, you know, these are the times where you have to carve out what you want to be or become or whoever. But anyways, I think we're going to just bounce off this topic and go to the next one there. And, yeah. I haven't listened to what I've already recorded yet. And since I can't use her comment to discuss because she asked me, and I'm not going to go against what she asked me. But she gave a few examples of people, but I'm not going to... I mean, I'm going to look it up when I get a chance, but I'll probably end up putting this video before you can look that up. But a lot of people like to take facts like the amount of kids that go missing in a year, and then they like to, if they're an alien conspiracy, they like to tie it to alien conspiracy, or elite conspiracy, or, you know, reptilian conspiracy, all the people that go missing, all of that, whatever. But, and I don't like saying this whatsoever, but one thing you gotta put into account for this, it's the evil of the human being that comes into account here. Now, some of these children go missing. Some of them, there's been kids that run away from home. There's been kids that literally disappeared, come back. Some that never come back. But there's a big number of these kids that are homeless on the street, that are missing by their parents. But it's because they couldn't live there anymore. Because they could do drugs, could do whatever. Parents aren't going to say the whole story because that shit hits the news, and they don't want always to know. Some parents will. Some parents will put out things saying, I don't care what you're doing or whatever, just come back home, you know. But a lot of these facts aren't, what missing people aren't completely followed through on. They just have the number of missing people and they add to that. Now, there are some legitimate missing people that we have no idea what the fuck's going on. But there's a lot of them that kids are sold to other people. Kids are stole to be sold to other people. People, like I said, leave home, run away. I mean, even in Cornwall, there's been these guys who report their girlfriends or wives missing, and they say that, no, it's the natives on the island fucking kidnapped her. It's like, no, your girlfriend went away from you because you're too possessive. She went to Cornwall Island to party with a bunch of natives. She wasn't fucking missing. She knew exactly what she was doing. But this is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of fucking things that come to effect here. But to people making conspiracies, that doesn't matter. And sometimes it's not even their fault. They don't know all that, and they can't get past their programming or their belief systems to decide to, well, let's look in to see what's really going on with some of these missing cases. It's like, nope, big fucking number of like 100 million kids are gone in the U.S. or whatever the case is. All right. And they don't take into account that a kid is not fucking everything under 10 or under 5 or whatever. That's like everything under 19 or 18. There's a lot of that percentage that is 18-year-olds and 16-year-olds that move out of their house. And the parents say they're missing, but they just don't return the parents' phone calls. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to be taken into account there. Now, I'm not saying all those can be, I'm not saying all those stats and all those numbers can be just simply put, made okay, made, you know, justified by one of these means. But I'm telling you, there's a hell of a lot of them that can. And for the rest of them, who the fuck knows? I don't know. And I'm not here to tell you that there is or isn't aliens. I'm not here to tell you that there is or isn't a conspiracy to kidnap children or whatever the case is. I'm not going to do that because I don't know. What I do know is when it comes to the entities that make you have the bad thoughts about yourself, okay? The thoughts about yourself, your self-image, what you're going to do in life and all that. These aren't the entities that are kidnapping you. If entities are kidnapping people, which I don't think so. But anyways, people kidnap you. People do the evil. People are amazing. We're all fucking amazing, beautiful, loving. But some of us are fucking downright evil. We have both these polarities within us. And it's not hard to see. Right? I can see even where I'm from. Some of the things people do and say are pretty fucking brutal. And to children and all that. So, once again, I'm not here to discount any of these missing children, missing whatever, they just vanished, blah, 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 blah. There are legitimately some parents that killed their kids and said they've gone missing and tried to get away with it. And then years later they found out they were doing it for insurance. Hell, there was a fucking account in my town where that's happened. This woman owed, I mean, this is the rumor, so please don't, anybody who might listen to me who knows people, I'm not judging, because I don't know. But the rumor was the mother of the kid owed a lot of coke money to somebody. And she got another young man involved to come kill her kid, I think it was her daughter, but I don't remember if it was a boy or girl, to get the insurance money. Now, he was supposed to be in and out, but he ended up getting caught by the police and he's in jail right now. And whatever happened, happened. I don't know if she's
turns out, if she never got convicted, I don't know. But those are the rumors, and a lot of people still talk about that to this day in my town. That is evil that is capable by people, not entities. We can blame entities all we want and pretend we're perfect little fucking human beings that don't do evil, but that is the furthest fucking thing from the truth. We have the capability to be on drugs and decide to kill our own children to get fucking money. We have that capability. The best mother listening to the sound of my voice right now has that capability in her. When everything goes wrong, that could happen. Not to that extreme necessarily, but I know I've read a lot of stories about these great mothers that everybody thought was a fucking stand-up woman who shook her baby too hard because she was just overwhelmed, overstressed, baby blues, dealing with too many kids, having to go back to work, her baby not cooperating, wouldn't stop crying, and she couldn't get any sleep, and then she shook it out of just a fucking bloody, miserable, oh, it's gonna make me cry, fucking accident, and her baby died. And then she has to live with that for the rest of her life. And that's a horrible, horrible thing to live with. When it was just like, she just didn't have the help. Her husband was maybe working, well, a couple of, I don't know, I forget, I don't even want to get into specifics, but I mean, the majority of those cases you see, it's a single mom. But there's a couple of them where the husband's working, and when he gets home, he doesn't want to do anything, or couldn't do anything, or blames her, or whatever the case is. And it's just, it's sad. But the sad truth is, we all have the potential to do evil and bad things. Under the right circumstances or the absolute wrong circumstances, we can be brilliant, beautiful, loving, generous. You know, tragedy happens and we all kind of pull together and try to help our fellow human out. When tragedy isn't happening, we can be fast to judge and fucking pass condemnation on all these people, and we will be fast to put our fucking differences aside. But then a tragedy happens, and yeah, we can put our differences aside and help each other out, whatever the case is. So bad things bring out good people, and sometimes just trying to live a normal life and do the right thing all the time, or, you know, can bring out the worst in people, you know. Sometimes a beautiful brand new baby can bring out the worst in people. Not sleeping, not enough money, stress, you know. There's just terrible things that happen. And I am not completely convinced that there isn't a big number of these stats that end up playing out like accidental shit that's blamed on whatever else. But nonetheless, there is disappearances, there is kidnappings, there is abductions, there is all this shit. But it's just, I think no matter how you look at it, it boils down to the evil of humanity that causes it. That's why it's so bloody important to get your shit under control, become depolarized, do the exercises I teach, you know, but you can't force people to do this shit, right? But anyways, just wanted to end that there real fast, and I'm gonna listen to it now and see what I fucking left out.
Alright, what's going on, everybody? Well, that's blurry. Anywho, I'm going to not switch gears. I'm going to keep on the dark entity thought form process elaboration and trying to show that, first of all, you have more power than these things. These things can affect you, but that is a personal choice if they affect you or not. And people can act like victims, and I'm not dissing anybody, and I'm not trying to be a dick about this, but people can act like these things are more powerful and they can fuck with you and whatever the case is, but you know, you can't. You have to give your permission. And I'm going to go as far as to say, in my personal opinion, but I don't have complete first-hand knowledge with the demonic evocations and shit like that. But from what I've read and done, if the archangel, the invocation of the archangel, these archangels have dominion and agency and can govern over the demons, then to me, just to me, then I would say that even demons, even fucking with demons, and the demons that can come along and fuck with people and take hold on people and start fucking up your life, which can happen if you evoke a demon and you don't have the angelic, well, the archangels on your side and have a rapport with them and have activated them properly, whatever the case is. And yeah, these bad things can happen. But this comes from a knowledge or a lack thereof, a lack of knowledge about these things. So you start reading books about all these demons and what they can do and how to evoke them and how to get knowledge from them and all this. And it's like, okay, that's great. But if you evoke them and you don't do things properly and have circles and stuff like that, then you're not following the rules and you are maybe at their mercy or at their will or whatever the case is. Or maybe this is how they can affect you. But taking all that into consideration and doing research and trying to figure out exactly what's going on, when you find out that these angels have agency over them, if you have them on your side and use them frequently, and whatever the case is, then then you'll be okay. I think the problem lies when doing stuff with demons. I think the problem lies when the practitioner doesn't know enough and is going from information from also other people who either claim to do demonic evocation but don't, or claim that things have happened with demons that haven't, you know what I mean, just to get views or hits, or God only knows why they do it. But you know what I mean? I think that's where the problem lies, is when people talk out their ass about stuff and don't really know, and then people just take their words for shit and don't do their own research, and then they don't really know, but then they try this shit. And like I said, this is me speculating, but if you're gonna do something like that, it would only make sense to do everything properly and take all the information you possibly can. But if you're in so much desperation that you decide to evoke a demon to get money or power or girls, and then everything goes to shit because you don't have control of your fear. You are in fear because you still think these things are more powerful than you. And so why you're evoking this demon to get power, money, and whatever else, when it's not necessarily necessary. I think these things were created for a baneful intention, but can be used in a positive way and or to help yourself. But nonetheless, I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm just trying to illustrate the point that even when you're dealing with something like demons, who are over thought forms, but under the archangels, but to me still are a type of, well, the egregore at this point would be a massive thought form. Would be an egregore, but still below us. They still need either fear or love to have power. Once you evoke them, you need to feed them something, give them something for them to stick around and want to help or fuck with you. And if you don't do things properly, then you release, or I can't speculate on that, but I have a feeling that certain people do this, they don't do it properly, and then this entity is kind of there, and it probably doesn't want to be there. It's probably there around them, and is, has no choice, but it has to, how to survive and needs energy to be able to be on the spiritual plane or whatever. So now it has the ability to be able to scare or make or create fear as an emotion, because these things are predisposed to that. They're not the loving entities, they're the fearful entities. They're that vibration. Anyways, all this was simply just to say that, I'm going to be really late today, is simply all just to say that sorry, I started thinking about something else. It's all just to say that I want to keep going. I'm going to keep trying to prove my point that all these entities, minus, like your nature spirits, which are your, elementals, element, you know, water spirits, fire spirits, air spirits, even potentially, you know, all these things, all those things are of a different nature because they're part of the elemental classification, and the elements are very powerful, raw energy, and, you know, the elementals like the spirit of the elements, so, but, besides that, I think everything is an entity of a thought form of created nature by humans, and the ones that are like demons that are more feared on a bigger level, it's simply us that have powered that, but it doesn't change the fact that we are above them and can command them, but there is a specific procedure to command them, and there's also a specific procedure for them to fuck with you if you don't do it properly. But anyways, I'm going to go to my first mentors, and one of the ones I talk about the most, Praetor Xavier, and I want to play a few things from him. 3 mailbags. Now I might cut some of it out and only leave what's important, but I'm also probably going to leave a few things in there that don't pertain to demonic evocation, or not demonic evocation, but entities, spirits, things of a baneful nature, dark energies, whatever. I'm gonna leave some of that shit out that has to do with that. But there's also gonna be some things in there that, you know, these are some of the older things that I kind of like and I might want to talk about. So anyways, that's just to let you know what you're about to hear. So I'm gonna get to the first one and go from there.
Which is already a restless placement, but adding Mercury retrograde to it has made it quite unstable. As a result, there's been a lot of interruptions, distractions. I got one neighbor right now cutting the grass. I got tree crews in my backyard cutting down trees and getting ready to throw them in the wood chipper. This is something the power company has sent out to clear tree limbs and branches from around the power lines, as they do every couple years. So we're just going to have to make do. Hello, Praetor Xavier. I've been binging on your channel all week. Anyway, I work on a children's cartoon and can actually put hidden symbols in there from time to time. As a joke, I put pseudo Illuminati and actual Illuminati symbolism in episodes. Now, I don't believe in the Illuminati and would find it very amusing if conspiracy theories existed around a show made for preschoolers. But if the Illuminati does exist, am I fueling them in some way? Or if the Illuminati only exists as a thought form, am I fueling that? Or am I just giving power to the corporate animation studio that already seems to own everything? Thanks for your time. Now, you already know that if the conspiracy theorists latch on to that, they're going to have a field day. But whether or not that's amusing, yeah, you're kind of feeding into that. My question would be, since you're in such a unique position, why not try to put empowering symbolism into your cartoons? Because the kids today are really in trouble. They need some help. They need to have their creativity fueled, to have their critical thinking bolstered instead of being dumbed down. You are actually in that position to shape the minds of the youth without them even knowing it. That's a pretty awesome responsibility, to know that you can actually make a difference. So you might want to give that some thought and consideration. And I appreciate the question. Will you please turn up the volume of your videos? Well, I have. In fact, I think they're almost a little too loud now. But I could be wrong. I know my earlier videos were very, very low volume. See, the thing is that I wear headphones when I'm recording and listening. Rarely do I ever use speakers. And so everything kind of sounds loud to me. But I am using a normalization on the videos now, which does increase the volume. Thanks for the question. Hello, I just began the neophyte grade as outlined in L.C. Thomas's book. And I just had a question or two regarding the daily ritual formula. I saw in the end of the chapter regarding the neophyte grade, I think it was the end of 4 or so, that no tools are really needed other than robe, censer, etc. For a while I was using a quartz point as somewhat of a wand during the cross in LBRP and was wondering if I should continue or discontinue doing so, and what the leeway is on this idea, and also, is it of any paramount importance whether I make the point of Malkuth at the solar plexus or groin? I think this is all I really need help with, so thank you very much in advance for any help. Regards. Okay, my personal opinion on this regarding the wand is, starting out in the neophyte grade, you should probably just use your fingers. That is your index and middle finger pointing outward. And once you get to the point where you can actually feel the energy coming out of your fingertips, then switch over to an athame, which is a ceremonial dagger. The LBRP and Kabbalistic cross, you should be using an athame, not a wand. I don't really think that it would hurt to use a wand, but at the same time you have doubts, and those doubts will hurt your practice. I know a lot of people get caught up on the technicalities, and that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks to performing magic. Because when that doubt creeps in, that's when things get messed up. It's all in the frame of mind that we hold. I'm sure there's some people out there that have used wands and never thought twice about it, and they work just fine. But if you're in doubt, go with the book. Start with the fingers, which is actually good training to have the energy flow through your arm and out your fingertips and actually be able to feel that. Then I would switch over to an athame and have the energy flow from your hand through the athame and out the point. As for the second part of your question, the solar plexus. Again, this is something that a lot of people get hung up on the technicalities when it's more important that you feel you've done a good job. And a lot of these things are self-correcting anyway. After you've been doing them for a while, you will have a sudden realization that you should be doing it a certain way. That's just how these things kind of happen. The solar plexus is a very protective center. Groin is the root chakra, and during the Kabbalistic cross you are activating those higher faculties, separate from the animalistic and carnal desires. As you can see, it's the conscious mind that always seems to get in the way, especially at first. This will improve as you keep doing your exercises and your meditation. And I appreciate the question. Thanks. Thanks you for this info, but can you let others know not to touch their testicles when doing this? If you think this is painful on your face, touch your balls with this all over your hands. It's not funny. The pain was so bad. Will ever I have children again? My nuts boiled. They look like the tomatoes you get in a can, red and swollen. It's not funny. It's pretty funny. It's a little over the top, but it's still kind of funny. Of course, this is in response to the lemon and honey skin remedy, which I believe I did say to use it on your face. Not your balls, but your face. Aries, sun in Aries. Aries rules the face. So yes, kids, do not put this on your genitals. unless you really enjoy that burning sensation. Some like it hot and some not. When the heat is on. Oh my. Hey Freighter, quick question. First off, I'm loving your sigil magic course, by the way. But I was wondering, could a sigil work in the form of art? Like drawing pictures and simple doodles, but the drawings would be my desired outcome in picture form. I hope that makes sense. Take care. Yes, absolutely. Now, I've already answered this gentleman's question in an email, but I wanted to also answer it here. Yes, you can draw art form sigils. Now, that's not the way that I do it, so I can't really testify towards it. But I do know that others have done it and do it. I'm going to put a link for those interested here with Grant Morrison, the famous comic book author of The Invisibles, talking about how that entire comic book was a sigil, and that what he would do with the characters would come to pass. And the character that was based off of him, he actually put into the hospital and then had to get himself out of it. But I'll leave that for you guys to watch. And I appreciate the question. What I've learned so far is that I have to limit the information I consume each day. There are so many techniques and everyone seems to be preaching their own story. But there are so many stories with conflicting elements, it can make your head spin. Yes, there is a such thing as information overload. I know I got a lot of people saying that I take things a little slow, but there is a reason for it, and that is the reason. Too much information too quickly can be just as damaging as not enough information. It's just the polar opposite. There has to be time to internalize that information and get the understanding out of the information. It's just like eating. If you just start scarfing down your meal without chewing at a rapid pace, there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to be able to digest that properly, and you're going to get indigestion. Well, it's the same thing with information. You have to learn to internalize and digest that information. Thanks for writing in.
Alright, so I know so far he hasn't really talked much about my topics. Why is it so fucking blurry? Anyways, like entities and thought forms and whatever else that I've been talking about, and most recently demons. So, but I mean, there's so much good small little tips in here for anybody just starting out in magic and the neophyte, from like why you point to the solar plexus, why you don't use a wand, and why you have to wait for him to follow me. The first question had to do with thought forms, the Illuminati thing, and I know that was pretty cool what he answered. To so much more, right? So just this is where I think this first part gets into entities a little bit. This question that you're about to hear, and then I think it's the question after this, the question after this that I really like, that really hits me on a very emotional level, and you're going to hear him be emotional. I think I played this before, but I don't remember where, so, but I'm going to let that play. I'm probably going to let this whole mailbag play, because it's got so much useful information. But, and I mean, I'm going to not talk about anything that doesn't have to do with what I'm talking about. I'm still going to let it play. I think it's important for people to hear this shit. But anyways, just so we know. But I think we're here. He's about to get into some entities and thought form stuff.
Hi, I just watched the video on entities, and I was wondering when in my magician parkour these things could start to show up to me. Not that I don't believe in those entities, but to be honest, I don't feel like I've ever been in contact with such negative energies. I'll try not expecting them to show, but still I feel like I need to be prepared, and I want to be sure I can make the difference between a real negative entity and my mind playing tricks on me. Thanks a lot for your videos. Alright, so these things start showing up when you start thinking about them, focusing on them, and concerning yourself with them, because that is your intention. And you say, well, Frater, that's not my intention. I don't want to have these things around me. But the subconscious mind doesn't understand negative terms, such as I don't want these things around me. It's going to ignore the word don't. Anything you focus on is what the subconscious is going to assume that you want. And this is where most people get screwed up, not just with entities, just in life in general. They focus on not having money, not finding love. They focus upon their lack, and so they get more lack, and then wonder why their life is lacking. And this is why we say that when you are focusing on something and visualizing things, that you need to do it as if you already have it, to keep you from focusing upon the lack of having it. Now, when it comes to entities, when we go to do an evocation or an invocation, we are focusing upon that entity. It's a little bit more complex than that, but not that much more elaborate. And that will draw them to you. And a lot of entities are merely thought forms that people create by dwelling on them. And
alright, I was going to try and let the man finish, but I couldn't. Especially after the last thing he just said. A lot of these entities are thought forms that people create. Couldn't let that go by. I was trying to let this whole point be played out, but I just couldn't. Obviously, you know that's my thing. That's what I talk about probably more than anything as of lately. But there's a bunch of things he said here already that are paramount, and I don't know if anybody's going to catch them all. The first thing he said was, these things will start to show up when you start to focus on them. And I've said it before, and I quite frankly got it from him, was there's a group of people that joined, you know, these reptilian groups, and didn't have problems with reptilians until they joined these groups, because that's what they focused on. Once they started focusing on reptilians, and reptilians being real and whatever else, they started having problems with reptilians. Now, is it real? Is it their mind? Who the fuck knows? But it doesn't mean it's not real at all, period. Even if I could say, prove that reptilians don't exist in any way, shape, or form that these people are claiming they exist, okay? It doesn't change the fact that if you believe something is real, you focus on it. Your subconscious is so powerful and abundant and loves you so much, and this is kind of how we're created, that it will give you what you are focusing on. And the point of what I do, the point of magic, the point of witchcraft as well, but the point of harnessing these powers is to, instead of not knowing this, and when you get sad and depressed, you focus on the shit you don't have, and then you can't, you know, create that by accident. Well, instead of doing that, going forward, we focus on what we want in the present moment so that it manifests, because this is kind of how we were built. Now, all that being said, there's a few other things he said in here that are very important, such as, well, I already said the last part, about the entities and all that, but, well, maybe I should just leave it at that and let him finish up the idea. But I wanted to simply point out there that when you start focusing on these things, that's when you can start seeing them and having issues with them. So the more you look at stuff that has to do with people being abducted and the person putting out the content's opinion on who's doing the abducting, you are adding more energy into that and making something more likely to happen. Now, I don't think... Anyways, I'll let Frater finish and then I'll continue on with this.
About them. This is why I say you got to get away from the conspiracy stuff, because, you know, next thing you know, you're focusing on reptilians and you're seeing reptilians everywhere. It happens to people. It sounds funny, but it does happen. You got so many people focusing upon that, of course they're going to exist, at least in a thought form. Next thing you know, all kinds of weird shit's happening to them. So, my advice is, if you don't have any experience with negative energies or entities bothering you or hounding you, then don't worry about it. Don't focus upon it. It need not concern you at this time. if you want to know how to deal with it, just simply practice your banishing rituals. Or if and when that time arises that you need it. Otherwise, you're just going to merely create the very problem you're seeking to avoid. And I do appreciate your question. It's a good one, thanks. I admire your sophisticated approach of spirituality. However, this comes...
Alright, so just by the end of that comment, you can kind of see where I get what I talk about. So, the one thing he said that I say often, and this is exactly where I got it. I didn't remember that it's him that says this, or like this, but clearly this is exactly where I got it, because this is one of the first people I listened to. He said, well, about the reptilians, we're going to start seeing reptilians around, and I've already just stated that. But then he goes to say that with so many people focusing on reptilians, of course it's going to exist in at least a form of thought, meaning it's in all of our minds, all of our thought processes, all of our fucking collective subconscious minds, all equally at the same time. Because, yeah, you watch something enough, you watch something about reptilians a couple of times, it's not going to get in your subconscious. Your conscious is into it, it's blocked in. But after a while, you watch the same content, watch the same episode, show somebody, whatever, you're not really paying attention. Your conscious mind already knows what's going on. It's not like the habit thing. You're doing the dishes, you've already done it so many times, so muscle memory kind of takes over, your subconscious is wide open, right? Well, then eventually this gets in your subconscious. Now, in your subconscious, as well as everybody else who's at that level, everybody's subconscious knows, believes in things that reptilians are fucking real. And they are, as a form of thought. And once again, this thought form can come and do weird things in your environment. But only if you allow it. And when I say allow it, I literally mean by you focusing on it and thinking it's real, you're allowing it. So if you really want to allow these things, you really got to get in your head and not just take my word for it and be like, okay, well, I don't want these things to affect me, so I'm just going to believe Corey even though I don't believe him, and understand that these things are thought forms and that they can't harm me. Well, first of all, it's not that simple. And second of all, you shouldn't take anybody's word for anything. But you need to, if you want, anyways, you should come look at information and come to that realization that, you know, all these things are thought forms. And they can't do anything from, you know, sometimes there's physical things that can move in your environment. And from my experience, that's more dealing with elementals and or I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. But the thought forms and entities that we create, unless it's been around for a long time, has a lot of energy and power built in it. Generally, they are not the ones that write things on the wall or move things and shit like that. Because these things happen. But once again, moving keys across the table, moving a chair, breaking a light, having things written on the wall is to scare you. And it's about as good as it can get. The only worst thing I would say they can do beyond that is infect your mind with thoughts of, you know, maybe you should kill yourself, maybe to be pretty. Things that would lead you to maybe potentially, eventually, worst case scenario, wanting to commit suicide. Or be arguably the next thing or even worse. Because you think these thoughts are your own, you're accepting them, and really they're coming from somewhere else. But these are the levels that they can affect you at. No more, no less. I've yet to be able to prove that, because like, I've had weird marks on my body, and I've commented on this before. And you know, you read things about succubus and incubus and shit like that, and certain marks that you can tell that something's happening, and whatever else, blah 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 blah. But as far as I can tell, I've been trying to put together to see if that's what's going on, and you know, I can't actually prove it yet. So until I can prove it, I'm going to go with the opposite, which is they can't leave marks on your body, but unless you allow them to, probably. But anyways, all this is to say is, yeah, I guess that's where I got that information. And it's true. It's absolutely true that these things exist as a form of thought. But they can't harm you. Unless you think they can harm you. And even if you give this thing authority and power, and you think it can harm you, the way it's going to harm you is it's going to put you in a fucking abundance of fear, making all these things move and break and freak you out, and then give you crazy thoughts about what exactly is going on when it's doing those things, to make it seem like it's more powerful than it is. It's an illusion. Probably the reason why magic is another term for illusionism. You know what I mean? A magician is someone who does sleight of hand and illusions. Well, these entities are kind of doing that too. Move your keys along, break a fucking light, write something with the steam or whatever else, and then, you know, give you a bunch of crazy thoughts on how powerful they are, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, and if you don't do what they fucking say, then you're gonna go even further, and it's like, okay, well then do it. Fucking prove it, bitch. And you'll see nothing's gonna happen. But anyways, so I'm gonna continue on, but so that's the first part. I'm only gonna chime in on the thought form stuff right now. It's already gonna be a long enough video, so anyways, let's keep going.
Making spirituality a tool. It sounds like using the subconscious and collective subconscious as means to an end. The result that benefits the magician seems to be the core of your teachings. This became especially clear when you talked about Jesus' teachings in connection with the old wisdom, what goes along, comes along. This made me question the mindset of the magician, because I believe in altruism without the condition or premise of having positivity returned to you. It's why I dislike the idea, not saying it doesn't exist, of karma. Do you only forgive people on purpose to keep the circulation flowing, or is there something like true love for the sinner? I'm not trying to judge you, just really interested in your point of view. I would say that you cannot really have true selfless love for others unless you love yourself, unless you have your needs taken care of, unless you are in abundance, because that's when the cup floweth over. And when the cup floweth over, then you can share what you have with others and have a selfless compassion for them. Many of the people that go around hating on other people really have a problem with themselves and hate themselves to a degree and are just merely projecting that upon other people. Of course, there's your close friends and family, but I'm talking about just people you don't know, strangers on the street, and having genuine compassion for them. I think about all the things that I was going through in my low points before magic, when my cup was empty. I was of no use to anybody. I mean, how are you going to help somebody if you don't even know how to help yourself? If your cup is empty, what do you have to share? And so yes, I do focus upon building up your own self-worth, your own value, adhering to the principles, creating your abundance so that your cup will floweth over, and then you can share that with others. Case in point. Freighter, I have begun the great work, and it is completely amazing.
I'm not going to comment on what he just said, but I do want to say something here. Case in point means he's about to use this next testimonial as his evidence to prove what he just said is true. And it's about somebody who just started great work on May 11th, which the first time I heard this, I cried. And you'll hear in the background, Freighter Xavier is also having an emotional response where he sounds like he is also crying. May 11th is my birthday. I started recording around May, whenever I finally felt like I had a foothold on this stuff to be able to teach it. But anyways, it was a lot of synchronicity with this story and how I felt, and the fact that it all happened on my birthday. And then when I hear him in the background being emotional, being affected by the kind words of this person. And it's not even that, like whenever this person's explaining, like saying the holy astrology, and he has respect for the god names, and there's a few other things, and it's not even the flattery he's giving Freighter, that Freighter is getting emotional about. It's the way this person is referring to the curriculum and the great work that is choking up greater Xavier. Because maybe he's thinking about himself when he first started and how it helped and saved his life. Because he said he was in a pretty low place. I don't know if it was in this one or a different one, but you know, so I want to play this part. It doesn't really have anything to do with the entity part, but it's a damn good resource or a nice, how do you call that, like proof, a way to show people that, you know, anybody out there who's, I don't know, you're probably not watching me if you think what I do is of the devil. Anybody out there who might still think that this shit is of the devil, this is a good example of why it's not. And well, there is shit out there that is of the devil that you can do that kind of magic. And I mean, even that is just, I'm not going to get into that. But this is just a good way to show, like, Freighter's humanity, that he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder, that he's not fucking whatever, you know. He gets emotional responses, he likes helping people, and, you know, whenever he says he's still humble, I mean, it's easy to tell that that's true whenever you have a video like this. But anyways, I'm going to play this. This might be the last part of this one. Then I'm going to rock out till I get to work, and then I'll come back on when I'm done, although you guys won't know any of this, because this will be all uploaded when it's uploaded, and you'll see it all at the same time. I don't know why I'd say that shit, but I always feel the need to say that. Anyways.
Since I started, I can see things in a different perspective. I am much more positive, and my feelings toward everyone and everything is so much better. Yes, it is a strange feeling to have, but very exhilarating. My perspectives are so different, almost indescribable. Just over the last few months of doing the simple exercise of banishing and rejecting bad thoughts as well as accepting good ones is a life changer. My heart is feeling awesome love for people. I see everything is beautiful, and so let it be. I started the Kabbalah work on May 11th. I've started researching the holy science of astrology as well, and I am feeling that my true vision is materializing before my eyes. I'm doing the banishing ritual every day and will never, ever miss a day of doing so. I feel as though something so powerful and great is in my being. I know that it will take time, and I have an incredible respect for the God names, as you have stated. My journey has begun, and I accept it. Although it is a little scary, I truly know that this is a calling and one that I must accomplish in my life. I want to thank you with all my heart. I feel you are the only person that could have awakened me. I truly know you are a great man. I will always think of you as a true, genuine human being. All of the best to you, as always. Freighter, any advice you have for me will be greatly appreciated. Always looking forward to your videos. So much amazing info. You are the best. Sincerely, Kevin. See, this is what it's all about for me. Not the flattery, but making that positive impact, which I wouldn't be able to do if my cup didn't runneth over. And then he'll be able to fill his cup, and then he'll be able to make the same kind of impact on people's lives. That is how it's done. You have to first lift your own spirit up to be able to lift the spirits of others. You have to climb to that high position to be able to reach down and pull somebody up with you. And it's in that knowing that I made a difference, that kind of impact, that's what brings the joy to my heart and keeps the cup filled. Kevin, just keep doing what you're doing, brother. Just by doing those few exercises, you're already more advanced than the majority of the population, than most of the people that you're going to meet. Keep working upon your work and you will begin to make that kind of impact on the lives of others. And I appreciate both the question and the letter from Kevin. Thank you very much. Your videos are truly inspiring. There's only been one other person in my life that has made the impact you are, and for that, I thank you. Thank you, Frater Xavier, for helping me reconnect with my faith. See, it's not a fluke. I get just as many messages with people expressing their gratitude towards me as I do questions. See, what people think of spirituality is actually backwards, thinking that you got to be selfless and to help others. That's the goal, but they don't tell you how to get there. You cannot do it if your cup is empty. They don't teach you how to fill your cup. That's the part they leave out. You have to fill your cup first and handle your own being first, and then you will make a difference. If the spirituality that most people believe in actually worked, the world wouldn't be in the condition that it has been in for so long. The thought of using magic to influence a ball game seems rather silly and sad to me. The equivalent of Christians praying for their team. Great stuff otherwise, Frater Xavier. This is, of course, in response to my NFC Championship video, which was a spontaneous thing. It's not like I planned to influence it. It was just in the middle of the game, seeing what I can do. And yeah, it is somewhat silly, but Frater needs to get his kicks too. And I can afford to do so because my cup runneth over and I'm making a difference. It's not as if that's all I'm doing is influencing ball games. I am making a positive difference as previously shown. So if anyone should have the luxury of being able to screw around with their magic and influence a ball game during their time off, I would certainly think that I would qualify. And I do appreciate the comment, thanks. And I think that's really all we have time for in this video. I will be going through a lot more of the questions after the holiday weekend and sending out reports.
Alright, so yeah, that was pretty amazing to me. Like, even when I listen to it now, I get a little choked up. And he says May 11th. And then, you know, he gets choked up as it says May 11th. I don't know. To me, it's just my birthday, right? So it just like means something to me that I can't even explain. But nonetheless, put that aside, the way that person describes what they went through when they started Cabal to the Great Work of Self-Transformation, doing reject, banish, deny, accepting the thoughts they want. It's exactly how it felt when I first started getting my first results. And that's the reason I put these videos out, because, you know, it's not simple in the sense of, when we first started, it's hard to remember to fucking banish the bad thoughts, because you've been just accepting these thoughts. Like, you get a thought and you just kind of go along with it, and you start getting mad and get sad or bad mood, and then it's like, oh fuck, I'm supposed to banish that. Sometimes when you're in the moment, it's very hard to banish that. The point is, it's not until you get in the habit of doing it that it becomes pretty easy. And then that's when the change starts happening. The moment that it's now a habit, and every time you get a bad thought, you say, no, I reject that and I accept that, the opposite's going to happen, whatever that may be. Don't say those words. Say you reject the bad thought you got and you accept the opposite of the bad thought you got. And, you know, I always add, I will be 100% want to be, so that it's like a spell every single time. And I always have, I am grateful, because that is gratitude is the attitude for success, and I am are very powerful fucking words. So it's something that can't be beat. If you do it, you can do anything from changing what is a rainy day to a sunny day, to getting money deposited in your account, to having bills seemingly be paid, but no one's paid it. Your car, you know, there's so many things that I've done with that. It's incredible. The point is, though, once you get it as a habit, it gets done for you. You don't even have to worry about doing it anymore. It becomes automatic. Same way that when you first started using reject, banish, deny, it was automatic for you to just go along with the thoughts instead of rejecting or banishing the ones that you didn't want. So, I'm getting tired. But the minute it becomes a habit, it just takes over, just like, like I said, like the way it worked prior to you making it a habit. That's one of my favorite mailbags. It's, I think, one of his top fifth or sixth one, because there's a wide array of questions that are all fairly important to a new user, a magical user, and more than that, what was said right there, a person taking on their journey and knowing that it's scary, but they want to do it anyways, and blah 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 blah. It's just amazing. That's not what the topic of today is, so I'm going to leave that at that. I just really wanted to play that because it's amazing. Now I have to sift through the next stuff, and anything that I don't want to play or is not relevant to what we're talking about, I'm going to just cut it out. So, but anyways, so without further ado, let's get back to the show. Alright, so this next clip I want to play, I think I played it before, but it really pertains to what I'm talking about. Now, like I said, I can't get into the question that was asked and who it was and all that, even though I think I've probably already somewhat said it in a roundabout way. Nonetheless, the fact that I know, because like before I know who some of my viewers are, I can assume that they're all people my age or older or adept magicians and witches that already have a good know-how, and they're just, coming to see if I do things differently or trying to switch things up. But then when you know without a shadow of a doubt that you have someone who's younger, more impressionable watching you, that really affects me. It affects me in a nice way, and I like that, to the point where, they say they consider me a friend, and that's great. And, I have children of my own, and my children, from a father's perspective, I want them to watch and hang out with people that are, good role models. Like, I don't want my kids to be square little straight edges, I want them to get themselves in trouble and learn their lessons and do what they gotta do, and I'm going to be there to help them along the way, and, if need be, kick their ass and kick them into shape, whenever they, one mistake, but then if they keep making the same mistakes and not learning their lessons before they get into trouble, that's when you gotta step in. So that being said, knowing that there's a younger person watching me who, is obviously does watch conspiracy stuff, and who doesn't? Everybody does. But you can't go down that rabbit hole too deep. But everything happens for a reason, so I'm sure this is all part of their path anyways. But the point I'm trying to get at is knowing that there's a young mind watching me that's impressionable. I don't want to give out the wrong information, nor do I want to scare anybody away from ceremonial magic and or magic in general, witchcraft, whatever the case is. But I feel it's part of my personal responsibility to, make this as clear as possible. Now, everything I've said thus far about how we have control over everything from, the archangels, keep the demons at bay. If once you start working with them, you activate them, you build a rapport with them, doing the invocation of the archangels with your lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, when you start building that rapport and you are able, they're going to keep things at bay for you basically until you do that. But nonetheless, that still means to a certain extent we have, not that we command and control the archangels, but to a certain extent they are there for our spiritual development. It's not like a command and hierarchy structure, although you can look at it that way. It's more as if a reciprocal relationship. But their purpose, if you want to call them a thought form or an egregore, is to protect you. And you can call on them because they have different abilities as well, such as, Archangel Raphael is healing, But anyways, so knowing that I have a young mind watching me, I want to try to make this point clear. But what I'm about to play next, it might frighten people away from ceremonial magic and anything else. And I want people to understand that, as much as I don't want to scare people away from doing this kind of stuff, but you don't need to do this stuff. If we all are continuously
manifesting our circumstances. And there are many ways to be able to manifest without getting into ritual magic, ceremonial magic, witchcraft, none of that. However, there are pros and cons to everything, and to me, there's way more pros doing ritual magic, ceremonial magic, than just doing your simple day-to-day, like in my last video, the technique to try to manifest something. That's a longer way, but you can do it. But if you want to start being able to control and manipulate your life at a faster pace, as far as I can tell, the different witchcrafts and ceremonial magic techniques that I do are a faster way of doing that and doing multiple things at the same time, which is not what you do in the beginning. But the point I'm trying to get at is what you're about to hear is happen. There's a person writing in a freighter talking about a specific situation with entities and things he's been seeing. And freighter says that, you know, people might think you're crazy, but this has happened to me, and gives examples of things that's happened to him. And after you hear it, I'll give you the examples of the things that have happened to me, and literally just as recent as last night. And after this clip, if I have time, I will play another one, but it's a different polarity. It's a loving polarity rather than a fearful polarity. And the purpose of doing this is to show that, you know, part of the package is this, and you have to be prepared for this. Now, once again, depending on your signs, you know, because if you have strong Pisces signs or any of the water signs, then you might not have to do any ceremonial magic, and you might be more susceptible to people's thought forms and or the nature spirits and any other entity, basically. But for the most part, if you're not invoking anything or evoking anything, you're not calling anything to you. And I mean, even if you do it properly, there's really nothing to worry about. And you know what I'm trying to teach in this lesson, that you have control. But your control starts and ends with your ability to control your emotions, meaning controlling your fear. Once you have that under control, you have nothing to worry about. But even if you are fearful and something was to happen, knowing in the back of your mind always that these things can't physically hurt you. All they can attempt to do is to try to sway your thoughts and or some of the things I already mentioned, you know, like a light bulb breaking and, you know, things sliding and things being written in places or whatever. But as far as that goes, that's just to put you in fear, to feed off your fear. And once again, in my opinion, it's not even these things' fault, because these things were created to do this, either on purpose or by accident. So all they know is how to generate people's emotions on the vibration of fear, basically. So that's all they can do. And the best way for you to be able to deal with this is, well, there's many techniques, from all the symbolism ways, we're using candles, black candles, whatever, to simply just not fearing it whatsoever and using the opposite polarity to repel it away. So anyways, I'm going to play this clip, but I just want to make it clear the reason I'm getting into this and playing all these little clips and trying to make this point, really trying to hit it home, is because of the fact that I'm aware that I have someone who's young enough, I don't know the age, I would say early to late teens, but I don't know, watching my stuff and, you know, not worried about, but when I made an episode about entities, what episode was it? Was it about the entities, or was it, I don't know, I think it was the one of my most recent ones about entities and everything as a thought form, basically, and, you know, there's nothing to fear, whatever the case was. Well, they disagree with me, and I've assumed that some of the missing children and missing peoples and things happen to people are due to some type of entity. And I want to make it clear that I can't say one way or another. I mean, there are stories about places in Ireland where there would be strong earth nature spirits, which are not the thought forms I'm talking about. These are something very much different, I don't think created by man. And people blame those things for potentially abductions as well, which I can't speculate or comment on because I have no idea. But aside from if aliens are real and alien abduction and nature and earth spirits and just the evil of human beings and being deceptive and lying after, when it comes to the entities of the spiritual nature that we create thought forms and all that, but even the nature spirits and stuff like that, there's things you can do, and you're going to hear it. And later on, after I play this clip, I'll play that other clip, and you'll hear things that you can do also to keep the nature spirits on your side. But when it comes to these types of entities, okay, this I can tell you for sure that you are in command and control, and the game is for them to make you think that you're not in control and that they're more powerful than you. And there's many people out there trying to make that case that the demons and ghosts and spirits are more powerful than you, and they can make you and possess you and do all this shit, which couldn't be further from the truth. And that's the point I want to get across, because I don't want this young mind to be, or any young mind to be corrupted in thinking that, you know, these things can make them do all these bad things, and they got to go over into the church to, you know, and I'm not saying running a church is a bad thing. If you believe in Christianity or whatever religion, then that's fine, own it and do your thing. But understanding that these entities are, you're above them, because you can be in both the spiritual and the physical realm, whereas they're only like in a spiritual, mental realm. But anyways, knowing that you control and command these things is what I want to get across. I want to prove that. I want to make that very clear. I also want to make it clear that this stuff isn't to be just toyed with, because if you aren't prepared and something like this does happen, which this isn't to scare you, but it's to prepare and caution anyone. As much as I want people to get into this stuff, I don't want people unprepared getting into it. But if you are not in control of your fear and know the true nature and know where you stand and know how this shit works, that they can lie and deceive and try to trick you and do things to scare you, if you don't give in to any of that, then they're going to leave, because there's no energy here for them. And it's as simple as that. So yeah, let's get into the clip now.
Somebody else wanted to know about doing the tarot meditations at night before they go to sleep. Yes, you can. Alright, this next one I'm going to summarize as well. This person has started to grow spiritually and has had a lot of help from this channel in doing so, but feels now that he has gotten the attention of something or someone that has been watching him, and through synchronicities he keeps seeing the Eye of Ra everywhere and has heard a voice say they know who he is, and feels that it is hostile. He wants to know if the Rose Cross ritual and Lesser Banishing ritual of the Pentagram can help him stay safe, because he's kind of freaking out about it and is concerned about Illuminati forces. The Rose Cross just kind of hides you away for a bit, but the Lesser Banishing ritual of the Pentagram does give protection. But it's one of those things that if you start doing it, you got to keep doing it. So unless you're prepared to do it every day, then I wouldn't. Because when you do it, you're lighting up the astral plane, and you actually make things aware of where you're at. But really, the best thing that you can do is not worry about it. And I know that's going to sound counterintuitive, but you can't give in to fear or anger. Now, most people would just write you off as paranoid, but I've had similar experiences. You know, I wasn't being perved on in the shower like you were saying in your message, but as you said, you had like the symbol appear on your mirror. I've had things written on the wall, and they weren't very nice about me, and I'll leave it at that. I've had dark presences on me come to me in the middle of the night, that type of thing. The best way I can put it is that there's a certain force that wants to keep people in a low vibration. And so when somebody starts raising their vibration, the best way to keep them in a low vibration is to scare them and make them afraid, or piss them off and make them angry. I mean, just by giving it attention, you're giving it energy, whatever it may be. I mean, look, if Illuminati wanted to take you out, they'd just take you out. You know, they wouldn't dick around with all the scare tactics. They just want to keep you in low vibration. And so, real or imagined, either way, it doesn't matter, because the solution is the same. You'll have to learn to control your fear, not get angry, and ignore it to the best of your ability. If they hit you with hate, hit them with love. I found that really pisses them off. They can't get away from you fast enough. I do have a video on psychic defense, and I recommend watching that and putting some of those into practice. Now, this doesn't happen to everyone, but it happens to some people. That when they start raising their energetic vibration, start coming into knowledge, start to accumulate power, that all of a sudden weird shit starts happening that tries to scare them back down into a low vibration. In fact, what happened to you is very, very similar to what happened to someone who I learned a lot of things from, such as spontaneous healing and a host of other things. And he had the same advice. So I was a bit more prepared for it than perhaps you are, but now you know. And thanks for the question.
So, I don't know if I'm going to play his Banishing Entities or a Psychic Defense video, but, well, I probably won't link it either, but if you can, you should check that out, because he talks about the same thing. But, as for the writing on the wall, I've had things that were hard to make out, but it seemed like something was trying to write something at times. I've seen things move in front of me. I've seen weird things happen, catch on fire, nowhere near the fire. And I've had dark presences on top of me, and, being in sleep paralysis is one thing, but then whenever it's just happening, when you're conscious, that's different. Last night, for example, laying down on the couch, I was listening to the microcosmic orbit and doing the techniques and moving my chi around my body, and then I started slipping off into another thought, and I was at work and whatever the case was, and I kept having to bring it back. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, while I was laying there on the couch with my eyes closed in a meditative state, there was a face, like somebody was coming up to me and leaned over me and looked right at me while I was on the couch, but it was like in my head, but I could see myself on the couch, and it just like stopped every thought that was going on. And my first impulse was to be afraid and kind of get up and break what was going on in my mind. And I can't say I fought against it because everything happened so fast, but luckily in that moment, probably wasn't my conscious in control completely, but it was there to a certain extent because I was consciously moving the key around, and then my subconscious would kick in and kind of go into the dream state. Like I said, when I was at work, I'd be at work all of a sudden talking to my coworkers, and then this is when that whatever it was looked at me. Now, I didn't have, first inclination was that it was something that wasn't friendly, but I have no way of knowing that, and it didn't do anything, say anything, or do it, anything like that. But it was there in my face looking at me. I said, "Hey, what's going on? Glad you can make it." And then when I didn't really phase or move away, that's when I started to feel like fear rising inside of me. And then I was able to say, you know what? I don't know what you're here for, but I love you and thank you for being here. And then I broke out of everything and woke up, came out of my hypnosis, my meditation. And I got up, I had a smoke, walked around a bit, and this is another thing that could, if something like this happens to you, you don't know if this is real or fake, you don't know if it's in your head, you don't know if you're seeing something that's in another realm, who knows what the fuck that could be. It could just simply be a dream. But the point was that I was having a dream while I was trying to meditate, and then this interrupted all of that. And all of a sudden I was like semi-conscious, but still in that state and unable to really escape. And it wasn't until I said that I loved it and thank you for being here, I was being kind to it, that it was then gone, and it never happened again that night. This was as recent as last night. So once again, knowing that you're in control of these things, knowing that, like Frater said, the best way he can explain it is that there is a fearful dark force or something, a force out there that is trying to keep people in a lower vibration, in fear. Now we can speculate all day long what that is. Could it be the Christian church and everybody who's ever created and added energy to the demons, the Illuminati? Was it an egregore literally created to keep people in fear, and knowing that there is some spiritual entities out there that want to keep you in fear? Who the hell fucking knows? Maybe it's a thought form to go out there and test every person who is coming into any kind of ceremonial magic or witchcraft, and to test you to see if you have these things under control, if you're worthy. Who knows? But there is a force out there like that, that when you start gaining power and you start excelling and transforming, these things can come and pay you a visit. Now there's many things you can do, from wards to symbols to sigils to just doing your candles, having different crystals on, all these things. But the best thing, in case you're ever somewhere where you don't have those things, you lost those things, whatever the case is, the best thing is for you to know, first of all, is reject, banish, deny. Because after it was all said and done, that's what I did. I banished away the thoughts of this thing coming back to me. I banished the thoughts of this thing being baneful, maleficent, whatever, being evil or trying to hurt me. Banished all that and accepted I was something good. And just another thing I want to point out is when most people start this and have things like this happen to them, because this was my initial observation and conclusion of when I was having sleep paralysis and I kept having these dark forces and these dark shadows on top of me. My first initial thought was that it was evil. And after realizing, well, that's from watching movies, and you know, anytime there's a dark spirit, it's evil, and anytime it's a good spirit, it'd be like something you know, relative in a light, right? So, but this is how the movies portray it, and we watch these things, and these things are ingrained in our mind to the point where, you know, subconscious doesn't know the difference between real and fake. So its frame of reference is what it sees in the movie. So if something like in the movies happens to you in real life, you automatically assume that it's evil. The minute I stopped being fearful of that happening, the minute I stopped fearing that and realizing that, you know, it's probably, it can't hurt me, first of all, because it hasn't yet, and it isn't able to, that went a long way. But just realizing, because this is when I had to get over my fear of spirits. That was my biggest fear, was seeing a spirit. And now it happens and I'm able to control it and deal with it, because it's something I had to get over. But even more than that now is the fact that I know that we are in control and command of that. Like when I say that the magician is above the egregores, the servitors, and the thought forms, I'm not kidding. Because we, witches and the magicians alike, know how to create these things. So when one of these things come and visit us, then, you know, if we can control our emotion, if we can control our fear, then there's nothing to worry about. And if a loving one comes to you, well then, fuck, you talk to it and you show it love, then there's nothing really, you know, you can scare it away by using fear, just like you can scare the fear ones away by using love, but you generally don't need to do that. But the point of me playing this is to show you that these things can happen and do happen, but even if they do happen, there is nothing to fear. Between the banish, reject, deny, between you know, if you're doing a lesser banishing rituals of the pentagram and stuff like that, these things are going to stay away. The archangel implications, they can't harm you. They can try to get you fearful. And once you start fearing them, then they can get stronger and have the ability to do more things. But none of these things are actually going to physically harm you. The only thing that can happen is they can put fear into you and shoot ideas out there for you to either accept. If you don't accept those ideas, you say, I reject that, you banish that, and I accept that you can't be here, and that I love you, and whatever you want to do to get rid of it, it'll go away. And this is not a video to help people to deal with this stuff, but if anybody is dealing with this stuff, well, this information will help. But this video is to clarify and prove and show that these entities that I'm speaking of anyways, the thought forms, the egregores, aren't capable of abducting anybody, killing anybody, doing any of that. Okay? And they're most likely created by other humans. So anyways, I'm going to finish off the video. I'm going to let it play out. I'm going to play one or two more, either mailbag, one or two more questions. And it's somebody else who had a presence and spoke to them. And to that person, it was a deified version of the sun talking to them and explaining things to them. And I just want to show the different polarity schemes. So this person, the first person you just heard, was running into Frater singing that, growing spiritually, but then had this presence there, seeing the Eye of Horus, which is a good symbol, but because he had programming in him that the Eye of Horus is an Illuminati symbol and a bad symbol. not in illuminating a transformative symbol, which it is. It's not a bad symbol at all, but because he thinks it's a bad symbol, he thought those synchronicities were in line with this dark presence. And who knows if this dark presence was bad or good? I don't know. Obviously, he's painting a picture that's bad. Could very well be. But the point I'm trying to show is that depending on your mindset and how you know what's programmed into you and what you believe, because if you can get on board with what I'm telling you, that these things can't harm you, that you're in control, there's nothing to fear, well then if you ever do have something like this happen, then you aren't going to be like this person writing in to Freighter and explaining how scared you are of what's going on, trying to get help. You might be like the other one, able to communicate with it and get advice from it. So I'm going to play that. That's going to be the end of the video. I'm not going to come on and probably chat in after that because I'm already at like 90 minutes. So, but I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, have yourselves a great fucking night. Thank you to everybody who comments and subscribes, and keep them coming. And I really do appreciate it. And I'll try to keep the videos flowing really good too. Behind a podcast already, so my next podcast might be a double if I can put these 2 videos into one. If not, there's going to be 2 for 1, baby. But anyways, have yourselves a great fucking night.
Or papers. Alright, here's another message of gratitude, and I'm going to start this one a little further down. One day I fell to my knees in tears, begging whoever was out there to please send me something. I wanted help and direction. I asked and received. I stumbled upon your channel 3 days later. After listening all day to your videos, I knew I received what I asked for. And that seems to be the theme of the day, as I've had other things happen earlier today that were along those same lines. And yeah, that's pretty much how it is. That's how it works. In fact, ritual magic is really just a formal way of asking to receive in a manner of perspective. But you don't need ritual magic to do it. The problem is that most people won't even bother to ask. The things you want in life that you're having trouble getting on your own, you need to ask for. And what a great message. You know, and I'm certainly being humbled by the spirits today, that people would be led to me for the help that they seek. As I said, you'd think I'd be used to it by now, but, you know, it still kind of blows my mind. I just love the synchronicity of it all, how everything just works and fits together. And thank you so much for sharing that.